Hi my little med rats, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Ariel, your favorite med student and fitness girly. If you're into anything fitness, medicine, lifestyle, nutrition related, go ahead and subscribe and join the family. It's nice over here. Today we're gonna talk about a topic that I feel like a lot of people talk about, but not a lot of people do it right. We're gonna talk about how to get your maintenance calories and how to adjust that depending on your fitness goals. So first, let's just start by talking about calories and macros are important in your fitness journey. So when it comes to weight, there's only three options. You either gain weight, you lose weight, or you stay the same. And that all comes down to one thing: energy expenditure. But here's where I differ from a lot of other advice out there. It is not as simple as just calories in versus calories out. Well, technically it is, but that in itself is not as simple as most people want you to believe it is. People typically figure out how many calories to eat by using something called TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. Your TDEE is actually broken up into four parts: your basal metabolic rate, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, the thermic effect of the food that you eat, and your exercise activity thermogenesis. All of those things work together to determine how many calories you burn a day. So let's kind of go over those four key components so you can figure out what's actually going on with your metabolism. First, let's start off with basal metabolic rate. This is the number of calories that your body burns just to keep you alive. Think breathing, circulation, cell repair, organ function, all of the scientific things that your body does to keep you just alive. This actually makes up the largest portion of your TDEE, and it's also the most misunderstood. Most TDEE calculators use the Mifflin-St. Jean equation, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, to estimate your BMR. However, that equation is based on a population average, so you can see that it probably couldn't extrapolate to everyone that could possibly be needing this. Also, your BMR can be influenced by so many things: body composition, hormones, genetics, and even how long you've been dieting. For example, people who chronically cut their calories will over time decrease their BMR. So if you use this equation, it's not taking that into account. Next, let's talk about your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the movement that you have outside of workouts. For example, if you're a med student and you walk around the hospital all day, or if you're someone who fidgets, or if you're someone who prefers to stand versus sitting. Those are all examples of non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Typically, when you're using an online TDEE calculator, they'll ask you to pick an activity level: sedentary, moderate, or active. But these categories aren't perfect, and typically they don't have much of an explanation. So you could have two people choosing moderate for completely different reasons, and it's either overestimating or underestimating the calories. A lot of the times they're only asking how many times you work out a week. So you could have one person who works out 3 days a week but has a sedentary lifestyle versus someone who worked out 3 days a week but is a construction worker, and they will theoretically have the same TDEE, but it's not. And another thing that people don't realize is that your NEAT actually decreases the longer that you're in a deficit and the longer that you're working out, without most people even realizing it. Next, we'll talk about the thermic effect of food. This is the energy your body uses to digest and process foods. And not all macros burn the same amount of calories during digestion. Protein has the highest thermic effect of food. Your body uses about 20 to 30% of the calories that you're ingesting just to break down the protein that you're eating. Carbs burn around 5 to 10%, and fats have the lowest with 0 to 3%. That means that two diets with the same calories can have very different effects on your metabolism depending on how many macros of what you're eating. And another thing that people don't realize is that the thermic effect of food, like everything else, can actually decrease the longer you're in a deficit. Your body is adaptable, which means your metabolism can learn to burn fewer calories if you start giving it fewer calories. Lastly, we have the exercise activity thermogenesis. This is what most people focus on. This is you going to the gym, lifting weights, doing cardio. But the biggest problem is people overestimate what they're doing in the gym and sometimes underestimate how much food they're eating. Calorie burning during exercise depends on muscle mass, workout efficiency, and metabolic adaptation. So just because the treadmill said that you burn 500 calories doesn't mean you actually burn 500 calories.
Huh?
Plus, if you start working out a lot more and you start getting sore, you might actually decrease your NEAT, which then in return balances out the calories that you're burning throughout the day. So when people say calories in versus calories out, they're technically right, but it's not just as simple as eating less and moving more. So how do you accurately calculate your calories? Well, the most accurate way to calculate your calories is doing something called indirect calorimetry. It's a test that measures your oxygen intake and your carbon dioxide output to calculate exactly how much energy your body burns at rest. This method is often used in clinical settings and research environments, and honestly is not available to the public and is really expensive. That's why most people, including myself, normally go online to use a TDEE calculator. And I know I just spent all that time letting you guys know what's wrong with them, but I'm not saying that they're all bad. I'm saying you cannot take that number as face value. It's really just a starting point. If you've been in a chronic calorie deficit for months, that number's not going to be accurate. If you follow a carb-free or fat-free diet, that number's not going to be accurate. If you have a hormonal imbalance or a metabolic disorder, that number's not going to be accurate. If you under or overestimate your overall activity, that number's not going to be accurate. The calculator only gives you a starting point, not the full picture. So here's what I suggest you do if you want to use the TDEE's calorie number. First, you get the number of what they say your maintenance calories is, and then you test it out in real life to see if it's actually right. After you get a number of what they say is your maintenance calories, eat at that for 2 weeks. And at the end of that 2 weeks, weigh yourself and see the change. If you're exactly the same, then congratulations, that's your maintenance. If it goes down, then you know that's not enough. And if it goes up, then you know that's too much. Let me give you guys a real life example. So say you're a 25-year-old female who's 5'5" and 170 pounds. You put in the TDEE calculator that you have a moderate level of activity, and it spits you out that your maintenance calories should be 2,351. Then at the end of the 2 weeks, you see that you weigh 173 pounds. So 3 more pounds than what you were when you started. Then you have to figure out what that weight gain actually means. Was it muscle? Was it fat? Or was it water weight? 1 pound of fat weighs roughly 3,500 calories. So if you multiply that by the 3 pounds that you gained, that means over those 2 weeks, you consumed in excess of 10,500 calories. If you divide that by the 14 days that you did this experiment, that means you were eating over 750 calories extra, and that your real maintenance would be 1,600 calories. Now, what if you think the weight gain is muscle? 1 pound of muscle takes about 2,300 to 2,500 extra calories to build, along with the proper weight training. However, muscle growth is much slower than fat gain, and realistically, most people can only gain half a pound to a pound of muscle a month. So if you gain 3 pounds in 2 weeks, it's likely not all muscle. Now, what if it's just water weight? This is kind of where things get tricky, because water retention can cause fluctuations of 2 to 5 pounds in just a few days. So if you ate more sodium, decreased your fats, started drinking creatine, or have just had a hormonal shift, that extra weight might not even be fat at all. A good way to check is to track your measurements and check in with how you feel. If your weight jumped overnight, but your waist measurements are the same, it's probably just water. So truly the only way for you to know your maintenance calories is to test it out in real life. And I know a lot of people who are just now starting their fitness journey want to just jump all in and start seeing progress like that. But for most people, that's just not the reality. I would say you should give yourself 2 to 4 weeks mentally to make sure you're adjusting your calories the right way to fit your goals. Now we can talk about macro splits. Determining your right macro split is essential for aligning your diet with your right fitness goal. There's a lot of data saying that one macro split is better than the other, and then other data saying that there is no difference between those two. So just take a lot of what you read and what you see other people say with a grain of salt and do your own research. But there are a few basic rules that go along with whatever goal you have that pretty much are universal. For example, if you're looking to lose fat, it's highly recommended that you have a high protein diet. It promotes fullness and preserves muscle mass, which increases your BMR. And there is some evidence that shows that increasing your protein is even more important than decreasing your carb. I've seen studies that say anywhere from 0.7 to 1.3 times your weight in pounds is how much protein you can eat. And then when it comes to carbs and fat, I would suggest just kind of splitting that the way you feel comfortable. However, if you're a woman, your hormones are created using cholesterol, which is derived from fat. So you don't want to drop your fat too much and then cause yourself to have a hormonal imbalance. I personally don't recommend ever cutting out whole food groups. I'm just not into that unless there is a scientific reason that you need to do that, which for a lot of people there isn't. If you're looking to gain muscle, protein is going to be super important for you, but carbs are also really important. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough fuel to get through your workouts. So I know I'm not giving any specific macro splits. I know for me, if I'm on a cut, I like a 40-40-20 split, and if I'm on a bulk, I'll do 35, 40, 25. The type of exercise you do will also determine your macro split. If you're more of an endurance runner, someone who does a lot of cardio, a lot of running, you're gonna need a higher carb load. Some research shows that if you are a long distance runner or do a lot of endurance training, you could benefit from up to 60% of your diet coming from carbohydrates. But the variability in individual responses makes it harder to make a one size fits all macro distribution, which is why it's really important to try things out, see how your body responds, and adjust from there. And I suggest that if you're someone who's new to your fitness journey and if you've tried what I've said and it's still not working for you, to consult a doctor. At the end of the day, a lot of the people who are talking about this are only talking from their personal experience, and they can only tell you what worked for them. Which is why I'm trying to give more of an educational overview than specific advice, because I'm not a doctor yet, so don't y'all come attack me. And now another question that I get asked a lot: do you have to track your macros? I would say yes. Honestly, people are gonna say no, technically you don't have to, but if you're new to this, I strongly recommend keeping some sort of log of what you're eating so that you can really see and get more in tune on what you're putting in your body and what it's giving out to you. And then after a while, once you get a hang of it, you'll start to understand portion sizes more, and you'll start to understand what certain foods will do to your body. But at the end of the day, it's all about consistency and building habits. So if tracking your food really just stresses you out and you can't do it and it'll make you just kind of fall off, then don't do that, and focus on balanced meals, portion control, and if nothing else, high protein. And that's all I have for you. Hopefully now you guys kind of understand how to calculate your calories and how to tailor it to you to help you with your goals. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment below. And let me know if you guys want to dive deeper into the science of these topics. But thank you everyone, I'll see you in the next video.